Before we begin, take 1 second. If you believe that life can change in a single night, if you've ever loved someone and watched them walk away without shouting, without warning, then this story is going to stay with you. Subscribe now, because the stories on this channel aren't just stories. They're the moments people don't talk about, but never forget. Michael sat in the living room, but it didn't feel like a room anymore. It felt like an echo, a hollow space where something important used to live. The only light came from the lamp in the corner, dim and tired, stretching long shadows across the walls like memories that refused to disappear. Dust floated lazily through the air, visible only when it crossed the beam of yellow light. Tiny particles drifting with nowhere to go. Just hours earlier, Claire had left. No shouting. No accusations. No dramatic last words. She had folded her clothes, zipped her suitcase, and walked out with the calmness of someone leaving a hotel room. Not a marriage. And somehow, that hurt more than anger ever could. Michael's mind kept replaying the moment, but it felt distant, like trying to remember a dream that fades the harder you chase it. All he could clearly recall was the sound of the zipper closing, sharp, final, and the soft, fading rhythm of her footsteps down the driveway. That sound echoed louder than any scream. He leaned forward on the couch, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly together, as if he were trying to hold himself from coming apart. His wedding ring felt heavier than usual, pressing into his skin like it no longer belonged there. The house felt wrong. Not empty, wrong. Like furniture had shifted by an inch, like the air pressure had changed, like the place itself knew something had ended. On the mantel, photographs stood frozen in time. Smiling faces. Beach trips. Christmas mornings. A life that looked perfect if you didn't know the silence that had grown behind those smiles. Michael stood slowly and picked up one frame. Claire was laughing in the photo, head tilted back, sunlight in her hair. He traced her smile with his thumb. "When did that stop being for me?" he whispered. He thought about the dinners where she barely spoke. The nights she came home late and said she was just tired. The way she had started looking through him instead of at him. The signs had been there. But love has a way of turning warning signs into background noise. He had told himself every couple goes through phases. That distance was temporary. That effort would fix everything. Love can hold anything together, he had believed. But now the truth sat across from him like an uninvited guest. Cold. Still. Undeniable. He was alone. Michael walked into the kitchen on autopilot, like his body didn't know where else to go. 2 coffee mugs still sat on the counter. He had made them that morning. One black, his. One with cream and sugar, hers. A small piece offering after another quiet breakfast. She hadn't touched it. The surface of the coffee had gone still, a thin film forming on top. Cold. Forgotten. He picked up both mugs and poured them into the sink. The dark liquid spiraled down the drain, disappearing in seconds. He stood there watching until the last drop vanished. "Just like that," he muttered. The running water sounded too loud in the silent house. He shut the faucet off quickly, but the quiet that returned felt heavier than before. Back on the couch, Michael tried to steady his breathing. His chest felt tight, like something invisible was pressing down on him. He wanted to call someone. Anyone. Just to hear another human voice say, "You'll be okay." But his phone lay face down on the table, and it felt miles away. What would he even say? "Hey, my marriage just ended," in complete silence. He didn't even understand it himself. Then, ding dong. The doorbell rang. Michael froze. For a split second, his heart leaped into his throat. Claire. But hope faded as quickly as it appeared. Claire wasn't the type to walk out and come back hours later. She had left with the calm certainty of someone who had already made the decision long ago. The bell rang again. Slowly he stood and walked to the door. Each step felt heavy, like he was moving underwater. He opened it. And there she was. Evelyn. Claire's mother. She stood there in a soft gray cardigan, her silver hair pulled back neatly, holding a small bag in one hand. Her posture was straight, but her eyes held depth. Concern. Strength. Something steady. Michael blinked, unsure if he was seeing her correctly. "Michael," she said gently. "May I come in?" He stepped aside without thinking. This wasn't what he expected tonight. He expected anger. blame. A lecture about how he had failed her daughter. But Evelyn entered the house like someone walking into a hospital room. Careful, quiet, aware of pain in the air. They sat in the living room. The same room that had felt suffocating minutes ago. Now it felt different. Still sad. Still broken. But not crushing. Michael opened his mouth to speak but nothing came out. Words felt useless. Finally he managed, "She's gone." "I know," Evelyn replied softly. "She called me before she left." Michael swallowed hard. "Then you know she doesn't want this anymore." Evelyn paused, choosing her words like they mattered, because they did. "Sometimes," she said, "people leave not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to stay." Michael looked up. He hadn't prepared for kindness. "She's searching for something," Evelyn continued. "And it's not something you could have fixed alone." Her words didn't remove the pain, but they shifted its shape. For the first time that night, the silence didn't feel like punishment. They sat there, not talking for a while. But it wasn't an empty silence. It was the kind where breathing feels easier just because someone else is in the room. Michael realized something. Evelyn wasn't here as Claire's mother. She was here as a human being who saw another human breaking. And she refused to let him break alone. "I loved her," Michael said suddenly, voice cracking. "I did everything I knew how to do. Maybe I wasn't enough." Evelyn leaned forward. "Don't say that," she said firmly but gently. "You gave her love, stability, a home. Sometimes people drift away not because someone wasn't enough, but because they themselves don't know what they're looking for." Michael buried his face in his hands. "Then why does it feel like I lost everything?" "Because you gave everything," she said. And something inside him shifted. Time blurred. Michael talked. Really talked. About the distance. The late nights. The pretending. The fear of admitting something was wrong, because saying it out loud might make it real. Evelyn listened without judgment. At one point he said, "I don't know why I'm telling you all this. You should hate me." She shook her head. "Hate doesn't heal. And I don't hate you. I see your heart." That sentence stayed in the room like a warm light. Later, Evelyn quietly went into the kitchen. She moved like she belonged there, like care didn't require permission. When she returned, she handed him a cup of tea. The warmth seeped into his palms, then into his chest. It wasn't the tea. It was the gesture. A reminder that he still mattered to someone. "I know this hurts," she said softly. "But don't let pain convince you that you are less. You loved honestly. That matters." Michael looked at her differently then. Not as his wife's mother, but as someone who saw him. Truly saw him. For a brief moment, she placed her hand over his. The touch lasted seconds. But it said what words couldn't. "You're not invisible." When the clock neared midnight, Evelyn stood. "I should let you rest," she said. "But you don't have to go through this alone." He nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in his throat. When the door closed behind her, the house was quiet again. But not crushing. The silence now held something else. Warmth. Words. A presence that had left an imprint. Michael sat back down. His grief was still there. But alongside it, for the first time that night, there was the smallest, quietest feeling. Hope. Some nights break your heart, and quietly rebuild it in ways you never expected. If this story touched you, stay with us, because the next chapter changes everything.